Okay, so this is going to be episode one of this mini series where I share my journey with you guys as far as how I got my very first payout. There were a lot of hurdles. I think the hardest part when it comes to trading is actually having an edge in the market, and I find like quite often, traders tend to focus on win percentage when really they should be focusing on their R multiple. The thing is, you could have an 80% win rate, but the more trades you place, 1,000, 5,000 trades, 10,000, as it goes up, 100,000 trades, you are going to find that your win percentage gradually lowers. It will start at 80%, then eventually it'll drop down to 70% after, many trades, then 60. Just the probability of it, dropping is pretty high. Now, because of that, and I knew I couldn't personally like maintain like an 80% win rate. Not that I did have an 80% win rate. I'm just saying, I was gonna focus on R multiple instead because the probability of me having a higher R multiple is a lot higher than me maintaining an 80% win rate. Okay, so that's a first lesson that I learned in trading. And I know with Bernd Skopinski, and I'll leave a link to his channel because I can actually do that now, I noticed. I guess my channel got approved, thanks to you guys, of course. I'll leave a link to his channel because, I was one of his students, and one of the things that he really focused on was, being able to achieve 2R, consistently. And I think that is where a lot of traders need to kind of start at. That is the starting point. So being able to do that is really important because if you can do that, you can find a way to actually stretch it to like 3R, 4R. In my case, it's actually 5R, and I'll kind of get into how I was able to do that later on in the series. But I just wanted to kind of really emphasize the R multiple because this is how I got an edge, and I'm just sharing it with you, basically the basics of it. So hopefully you guys can employ it, on your own using your own strategy. Now, what we're going to do is I will show actually a payout. So this is what my payout was from MyFundedFutures. I'm still trying to get my Rise account approved so that I can get these funds. But this is basically, what I was able to achieve in a 2-week span. Now, I'm also going to show you like a screenshot here of my stats, okay, for that account. So I think most traders, they think, well, if that person got a payout, they must have had a really high win percentage or so. If you take a look at my win percentage, it's only 18.52%. But if you look carefully, my average winner was $579. My average loser was 114. What that tells you is that I let my winners run and I cut my losses short. Okay, now the reason why I'm going to mention this is I actually have up on the screen in the background here, this is a chart which I did for myself like early on, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to basically execute this in my trading. There was a lot of things that I went through. I actually had a losing strategy before, and then I used Gemini AI, which I will do in a separate episode. But basically, I used AI to guide me in the right direction. So I had a losing strategy. I had back tested this thing, and I found out that, I really didn't have an edge. So I asked Gemini AI, how could I improve on the strategy? And the crazy thing is, it told me instead of entering at like the top of the zone, try entering midway, like 50%. That one change basically changed the R multiple of my strategy, and it turned a losing strategy into a winning strategy. This is also something that I researched with, I think his name was Martin Luck or Martin Luke. He was world champion, I think, in like stock trading or something. He was really young. This guy was like only 20 something years old, but he had an insane, return. I can't remember. It was like 900% or something like that. I can't. What I'll do is I'll actually maybe either kind of go through that video with you guys, in an episode, or that's if you would like, or I could give you a link to it. But yeah, I would definitely check out that guy's his strategy. Even though it was for stocks, it applies to all markets. And I was really focused on that because I was like, so how did this guy do this? I was trying to figure it out, and I think I may have actually figured it out. But before we actually get to that, I wanted to share, this chart with you because this is really important. Now, what I did for myself So what I have here is basically 10 trades. Okay, so we're going to take a look at 2R and why the R multiple is really important for your edge. So what I've done here, so the yellow represents the losing trades. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have negative 100. So let's just say, for example, I placed a trade, I lose 100 with the losing trades. Now the winning trades, which are these here, if I get it right, then I make 200. If I calculate this out here at 50% win rate, okay, so I will end up making $500. Then what I do in this column, okay, so now we change it. So now I only have a 40% win rate. So that means I have 6 losers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 4 winners. If I calculate this, I have $200. So that means that if my strategy, at 2R, I only need to be right 40% of the time to be profitable. Now, when we get to 30%, so that is 7 losers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 losers, 3 winners. At this point, you will notice that I actually start losing money. Okay, so this is the importance of having a high R multiple. And the reason why I needed to understand this early on is because this made me realize I really don't need to aim for 80%, not even 70%. Although, if I'm being honest, I think the top traders in the world or average probably around like the very good ones, 40% most likely at the highest. If you're looking at like many thousands of trades, they are probably within the 30 to 40% win percentage. And if you take a look at this, just based on what we are at here, 30 to 40%, you are still profitable. Actually, no, not 30%, 40% if you're looking at 2R. Okay. Now, if you're wondering, how does this translate to my own strategy? If you look, going back to my stats, I had a 5R multiple. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I actually tried to scroll all across here, but I couldn't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it over here. The exact same chart, basically. Okay, so let me just scroll here so that you guys can see. What kind of difference does it make when you have a 5R? So what that means is, in this case, if we look at the example that I had before, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 losses. So again, if I lose 100. If I win 500. So at 50%, if I calculate all of this up, I would have made $2,000. At 40%, I would have made $1,400. At 30%, I would have made $800. So you can see where this is going. That means with a win rate of 30%, I am still profitable. At a win rate of 20%, I would have made $200. So even at 20% win rate, I would be profitable. Okay, so that means the higher R multiple that you get, the less you have to actually be right. The thing is, not many traders, I think, can stomach losing over and over again. But I think, this is just me personally. For a trader who is learning, they want to be profitable. I think taking this route is important because you need to get used to losing a lot, which is kind of a funny thing to say because, when traders get into trading, like especially newer traders, they want to win a lot. They get like hyper focused on winning. Trust me, I know because I've been through that whole process. But there's been times where I would get loser after loser and it's fine. It doesn't affect me as much now because I'm aware of basically the R multiple. Now, what I'm going to try to do with my trading, moving forward is really focusing on that R multiple. And I'll show you guys also what I mean by that. We'll get into more details when it comes to actually executing and how to do this, on the charts. But for the first episode here, I wanted to really emphasize on the importance of R multiple, especially for a newer trader, because a newer trader is so focused most times on win percentage. They want an 80% win rate. Realistically, that is not, it's possible at the start, but as you start taking more and more trades, you're going to find that it's going to decay. You're going to start at 80%, great. After 1,000 trades, you're going to notice, wait, you're not at 80% anymore. You're at 75%. Okay. And then 1,000 more trades, maybe you're down to 70% or even under 70%. At that point, that's when you start getting nervous, because then you realize that maybe you are starting to lose your edge. Whereas doing it this way with the higher R multiple, you're going to find that it's more sustainable over the longer period. Especially when you're taking so many trades, you're going to find, just how important I think the R multiple is. Now, again, this is more focused around my own style of trading. I know everyone has their own way of trading. This is just how I do it and how I was able to pass not only the problem challenge, but to get a payout from it. And, I'm hoping that I can really improve on this. I'm trying to find ways to do that because basically, if you think about it, if you could flip a coin using an 5R multiple, you could actually be very profitable, because flipping a coin is like 50%. The only thing is you have variance. You could lose 3 in a row straight off the bat. You could also lose 6 in a row straight off the bat, and then you could run into a lot of winners afterwards, which has happened to me as well. But that's a whole nother topic. I think I'm going to try to keep this video short. I just really wanted to focus on the R multiple. To share my payout with you guys as well, but how I was able to do all this, just showing you that I was able to do it with an 18% win rate. I think that's really important because, once we start to get into the rest of this, of my strategy, you'll see where I'm going with this. And there's so many ways that you can actually execute, this kind of strategy. I think that's important because you can apply it to your own strategy as long as you focus on the R multiple. But anyways, that is going to be it. A very short episode here for this mini series. I'm hoping to obviously expand on this. The next one, I'll kind of get into the charts and how I won't get into exactly how I did it, but I will show certain elements of it, I think, which is really important. Okay, so that is going to be coming up in the next episode. This one's just focused on the R multiple. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. And with that said, thank you guys for watching. And until the next trading video, I will catch you guys later.